Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of the Balanced Mind podcast with myself, Kim Searle of Emotional Mastery, and Richard Brewin of Progress. Hello, Richard. How are you?
Hi Kim, I'm very well, thank you. I'm glad to be getting towards the end of this year, but it seems like it's been a real slog, hasn't it, this year?
Yes.
But no, I'm good. I'll be happy when I'm sat down with the Christmas turkey.
Oh, bless you. I hear you, and I think a lot of people probably are just looking for that respite of that time of year, even if they don't actually celebrate Christmas for whatever reason. It's that idea of, phew, everybody's busy doing what they're doing, and I don't have to do any more. And I thought it was interesting because just before we joined, you were talking about recording something about your views of 2025 and as you said, predictions for 2026, which is hysterical. But hey, if ever there was a time when you could do predictions, now is not it. But 2025 is an interesting one. And I think, we've had some really good conversations this year, I think, talking about how, people are coping with their inner world of the behaviors, the thought patterns and emotions and beliefs. And of course, from your perspective, all the things that go on outside with regards to the profession, training, and AI and impact of, etc., etc. So I thought, and we agreed, this was a good topic to talk about because 2025 has been a really well, it's not been a great year, but it's not been overly bad either, I don't think. Not when you think we're still here. If you're still here, it can't have been all bad, and particularly if you're looking into the next year. And I know from my personal perspective, um, my life took a bit of a tumble round about August, and I've not been able to get back on the horse, so to speak. But I think in that time, I've also become more aware of what's happening out in my industry, never mind within the accountants and finance industry. And I'm getting a sense from the little that you said that that's the same sort of thing for you. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's interesting what you said there about, how your year personally, you as Kim Searle has gone and been, I was going to say knocked off the wagon, but that sounds like you were heavily drinking throughout the year. That's not what I mean. But I think, I mean, we've one of the things that has really become clear in my mind during this year, and when I say it, I think, well, it shouldn't do because you're six years old, Richard. You should work these things out before now. But there's it's the three worlds that we live in. From a personal point of view, me as Richard Brewin, 2024 was a tough year. 2025 has certainly been a tough year. Um, for me as an accountant, part of Progress BB and all the rest of it, I think it's actually been well, it's been a very positive, very exciting year. It's a year that's brought a lot of clarity. For me as a person on this planet, of course, it's been a year of absolute carnage and chaos, and so much happening outside of our own sphere. And you sort of look at those three threads, don't you, and go, well, actually, it's all, it just shows that how we are impacted at those different levels. You can have part of you can have a really good year, and part of you can have a really tough year, and part of you can have a really mad year. And
Mm.
we are the sort of the sum of all of those parts, aren't we, by the time we get to the end of this year? So if someone said to me, how do you feel as a result of your business this year? I'll go, absolutely great. Been a cracking year, really excited, very excited for next year. If someone says to me, how's it been as a person? It's like it's been tough. Just keeping fingers crossed that next year's better.
Yeah.
If someone says to me, how do you feel as a person on the planet? I'm like, wow, I don't know whether to be scared or angry or frustrated or what. And and as for
All
what
of the above.
yeah, and I just can't even imagine what 2026 is going to bring. So we sort of somehow, as humans, we sort of have to try and bring all of that lot together, don't we, somehow?
We do, and I've referred to Stephen Covey's model of one of it, that some of it's known as the sphere of influence or the circles of influence, and it's exactly that. It's you in the global world, you in your environment, and then there's you right at the core. And interestingly, when we talked about what we're going to talk about today. I said it was a bit like being in the middle of a whirlpool, but a maelstrom feels right. There's this whole stuff going globally on that we have no control over at all. And it is impacting us, whether we like it or not, it is
Mm.
impacting us. But it's about how you manage through that. And certainly for me, in recent years, it's been one foot in front of the other. It's been really hard because I was always very future focused, always had a plan, always knew where I was going. And I would say over the last few years, that's been knocked right out because of my own well-being, health, whatever. And then this year with a few other things that have happened. And it's just like, oh, hold on a moment. You can't control it. Cannot control it. And I'm hearing more and more people who are trying, in some cases desperately, to hold on to something that's now not relevant for them or not relevant in where they are. And the only thing we can truly control is ourselves. And it's a hard lesson. It's a hard lesson to learn to be in the present, to manage you and how you show up, how you talk, how you work with others. Um, and from that, what you would hope is that you can influence those around you, because we only need a few good people to stand their ground, show some confidence in not just what they do, but who they are, and others will just start to gravitate towards them, and then it's you'll start to get a better momentum. So yeah, I've been seeing it more and more with the way I'm seeing people operate. I'm talking to them. And I absolutely know that there's something that they need to work on and they don't do it. They just, no, I'll do this. I won't go there. I'll carry on with this. And I had a call yesterday with a lady. She's in Canada, and she runs her own business. And I was doing some work with her on a new modality that I'm testing out that's much more structured, much more direct, and gets results. It's a 2.5 hour session, but at the end of it, something's changed. And as I was talking to her, she was almost saying that no, there wasn't anything she needed to fix. She just wanted to get more confidence. And then as we were talking, it was like, oh no, there's something under there. I mean, we got there in the end, but absolutely all the way through. No, 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 no. And then, oh, hold on. There is something. So we're in denial, I think, as well, about where we are within this maelstrom. And I think there's more and more people who are doing just that.
I think that highlights the power of being human almost as well, because you when you're, for instance, if you're faced with a situation like that where a client is going, I'm fine, or I don't need that, or no, I just need something simple, then there is a temptation to go, oh, okay, and sort of move on.
Mm.
Whereas if you are, human traits of being genuinely interested and genuinely caring and genuinely wanting to make a difference, they are, by sort of applying those and going, no, there's something here, I'm going to persevere with this
Mm.
because I believe it's the right thing to do. That's what people do, isn't it? I mean, when you look at, we were talking about AI before this call, and yeah, AI doesn't AI doesn't persevere in that sense. AI, sometimes there isn't a solution, is there? Sometimes there isn't an answer. Sometimes it certainly isn't black and white. It's
No,
there's we
never.
deal in grey, and that's what the digital world can't do. The digital world has to find an answer, has to make it black and white, has to make it binary, as you say, and we're seeing this sort of in one respect when it comes to technology and AI.
Mm.
Yeah, the genie's out of the bottle. We can't stop it. It's going to drive and drive and drive to wherever it ends up. But on the other hand, it's not, we don't have to give in to that just because it's there. We don't have to let it dictate how we work, how we think, what we do. You know, uh, we what we want to do as people remains the most important thing.
Yes, I think you're right. I think it's been fun, little AI. Thank you very much. It has been fun to play with it and and don't get me wrong, I've used it. I absolutely use it. I use it regularly, but I don't rely on it. It's more for me to formulate my own ideas and how I want to work with people. So I used it for a webinar I hosted recently on communication. And actually, as I was going through, I'm like, I'm going down a flipping rabbit hole here. And AI was not helping because it didn't understand where I come from. And even though I told it, it was still coming up with the same old nonsense that everybody's ever talked about before, in the history of communication. And it's such a difficult topic when you start to deal with it at a human level. And I think that's where people need to understand if they are looking for help that they understand how AI is working. And, it won't understand you as an individual, and you are an individual, your experiences, the learnings you've got, the challenges that you've been through, they've made who you are today. AI won't get that. Even if you wrote all your history in, it will make some big assumptions about what it's seeing to give you the answers. And it bothers me that people are relying on it to help with their mental health. Do not get me wrong, sometimes something's better than nothing. But if they trust what they're seeing, that's not good at all, I don't think. They've got to be able to take what it's given and then, like you say, what's the human side? What is it? What is it that you need? What is it you're thinking? Where are you at this moment in time? AI can't do that. It can't ask the right questions. It can't notice the nuances of information that you get back. And I think that's where a lot of my work comes from. It's not what the person says, it's the very small facial flickers that says, oh, hold on, something's going on there. What's that?
Yeah. And I
Um,
think that's where, yeah, it's one of the things that I'm very positive about next year because I think, yeah, if 2025 has been a year where I think people have certainly from let's talk about people, let's talk about the accounting profession. Where I think that there's a greater awareness of what's happening in terms of technology and especially AI. AI has been around for decades, but the reality is that the vast majority of us didn't know it had been around for decades and certainly weren't experiencing it or weren't knowingly experiencing it.
mm,
That when during 2024 it really came to the fore, early 25 we started, it was almost everyone was piling onto ChatGPT and asking it to do their shopping list and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, I think as the year has progressed, we have started to get a better understanding of the limitations, the dangers, the role that it can play. I'm like you, I use it every day. It absolutely has a role in our lives and will have an increasing role in our lives. But as with everything else, we've got to know the pros and the cons and the ups and the downs of having it. And I think that's we're starting to see that coming through. There's greater conversation now. People, you know, uh, when you're looking at things on social media, for instance, and people are coming far more aware that things are AI generated and what have you. So there's always going to be a chunk of people who just take what they're given, at face value. But in certainly in the profession's terms, in terms of how can we use this in our business, how can we make it a positive, you've got to understand the negatives to build the positives, and that is a shift that I'm seeing, which is really encouraging. I think, I mean, that's how I feel about 2025 in general. In 2026, let's get the years right. 2025, 2026. Normally, by this time of year, I'd have a pretty good plan of what I'm going to do in 2026. I don't really have a plan. I have a strategy for 2026, which is to focus on what I can control and to continue what we've done in 2025, really, which is to simplify the business and to focus on its strengths. I think next year can be a very, very strong year.
And I think there's always that potential, isn't there? So I guess for 2025, I've heard some people, and they've had horrendous years. I'm going on about my own, but actually I've heard a lot worse going on. Not business-wise per se, but it impacts business. So, so some people have had a really bad year and others, yeah, not so much. And I think it's understanding. I say this, it's everything starts with you, as in the individual. And so wherever you are, I think a period of reflection is necessary to understand what went well, what didn't, and more importantly, what role did you play? So if I think about my own situation, um, I was I was expecting this bereavement, but I didn't expect how hard it hit me and how it took me out of the game for a good couple of months, and I just couldn't function. Now, could I have predicted that? Maybe, but not really, because in all the bereavements I've ever had, I've managed to rally round, get back on the horse really quickly, and it is what it is, and just grieve at certain points. Didn't happen this time. Completely took me out of the game, and I was quite staggered by that. But what have I learned from it? Oh, let me tell you, lots of things. Lots of things I've learned about myself, and I think that's the thing. When we're learning, it's not that, 1 + 1 = 2. It's what does one mean? And when you put this other one in the mix, what did that mean about you? So I think the more we can start to see our world from that perspective, the more that we can feel better in control. But I think it means that we are starting to tune in more to our own inner wisdom, not that of AI. And I think, my personal thing is I know that I've almost relied on lots of other people's opinions to where I'm going and what I've done. I've done all the setting goals and objections. I still call them objections. I think we mentioned that in another podcast, didn't we? I've done all that and it doesn't work for me. So consequently, what will work for me? And I love what you said, and I'm bringing it back to what you've said, a strategy. A strategy will drive your habits and behaviors. A strategy will mean that you're always heading somewhere that you're wanting to go. And this is the journey. So it's not the end result that's the thing, it's the journey that you're on. That strategy is almost like my horse that I'm talking about. That's how you're going to get where you're going to go. You're going to get on that horse, and that's how you're just going to take each day and ride it where you need to go. And I think that's probably a really strong way to look at, certainly as we go into 2026, a strategy for how you're going to move forward. I like that a lot.
I think it's a real positive from a business perspective. I
Mm,
mean, I talked at the start about the sort of the three threads, and what that has made me realize is the degree of control that I have over my business life compared to all the other aspects. You know, you talked there about personal loss, and it's very hard to have a strategy for life because life will chuck stuff at you that you can't do anything about.
yeah.
And certainly it's impossible to have a strategy on a global level because everything's happening that we can do nothing about. But when it comes to when it comes to business, it has highlighted to me just how much I can control and influence things from a business perspective.
Mm,
Globally, it's been chaos. Personally, it's been tough. Business wise, it's been great. And I'd look at last year and say the same.
mm,
It's so okay. So what's that telling me? That's telling me that when we talk about control the controllables, I can do that to a far higher level in my business because my business is my world, it is my environment, it does work to my rules. I know there's always going to be influences from outside, but they are influences.
mm.
I can go into my business and go, right, today we're going to do this, and we're not going to do this. I can't go into the world and go, right, today the world's going to do this and it's not going to do this. And I certainly can't go into life and go, right, this isn't going to happen this week. Because like the moment you do that with life goes, yeah, that's what you think. But
Exactly.
in business, you can exert that control. And that's not only is that a real positive in terms of being able to move your business forward, recognizing that at the end of the day, you're the person who can make these things happen. But it also means, when things are tough elsewhere, you've almost got that bit of your life that you can come back into and go, okay, right, well, it's carnage everywhere else, but right here in this office at this point in time, it's going to do what I want it to do.
Yeah.
And it can help, it's part of it, just gives you that stability as much as anything else.
Yeah, and what was going through my head as he was talking there. So we've got your strategy. That's good. That's dictating, how you're going to go forward. That's great. But it's this whole that people talk about mindfulness, and some people will be like rolling their eyes, and I think I would have been one of them. But what it is about living in the present. It's not even mindfulness, it's about living in the present. And like you say, when you're in your office, this is where we are. This is what we're doing today because that's all you can work with. We can do all our predictions and my goals and objections, of the future, but they are only as good at the time you make the plan because immediately they come into contact with life. You're being influenced by so many other factors that are beyond your control. So I think this idea then for me, listening to you talk, and you can help me clarify that perhaps a little bit more, is that if you've got a strategy and you just take each day as it comes, don't get me wrong, you may still have that overall arching plan that says you've got to get so many, tax returns done, da 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 da. But sort of for me, you'd have that all the time, wouldn't you? That wouldn't change. That would be the same year on year, except for the fact that you may have increased your database or lessened it. But the principles are the same. But by focusing on now, what can I do now? What can I do today? I think it just brings the whole focus and the brain into the moment, if you like. And mindfulness is where people are trying to get us to do that. But it's the whole power of now, Eckhart Tolle. I don't like him as a writer, but he did really start that whole genre of thinking. Um, and I think the benefits from it is a reduction in overwhelm and worry,
Yeah.
procrastination and perfectionism, all the things that I talk to people about. And I think when you're doing that, you're just cutting out the noise because there is a lot of noise that we're listening to.
And that's how I see it. I know everyone will have their own views on this, but tend to see, and have done for a good few years now, see my strategies from a human perspective. Yeah.
Mm.
What do I want to achieve? What do I need to achieve? But not in terms of the numbers, not, that's we have our goals, we have our objectives, we have our targets, but that's they're not strategies. For me, a strategy is, okay, I want to, you know, 2020 in 2026, I'm going to simplify my business. In 2026, I'm going to de-stress my business. In 2026, I'm going to um, make AI work really effectively for me as a person. It's almost like it's like a headline thing. Yes, you've then got to get into that and go, right, how are you going to do that? What are you going to do? But I think the first thing is you've got to have this overriding with what is my strategy for 2026? Is it, my strategy, it might be to just make this business more fun. It doesn't have to be
Mm.
something that is nailed down in the numbers. That then that's when you start to then dig into the layers, that's when that detail comes in. But I think to start off with, especially with where we are with the planet that we're on at the moment, I think it's very important that we do, most people between Christmas and New Year, you get this time to sort of reflect and ease back a little bit and think about next year. And I think that's where it's a good time to formulate this. Okay, what will be my main core strategy for next year? What am I going to rely on? What's going to be the point that I keep coming back to? Yeah, because with so much change, so much uncertainty, if all you're doing is living by a series of targets, that is going to be a stressful year, however you do it. because there's so much more that's moving around you that's outside of your control. Your strategy should be something that you can completely control. Yeah, because that gives you stability. So what can I control? What can I control that's going to really work for me? Right. That's my, I'm going to call that my core strategy. Now, how do I build on that?
I love that. I love it. As I'm listening to you, I'm like, yeah, that sounds exactly where I should be thinking more about 2026. I don't have a lot. I think I've said to you, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different outcomes. Sort of got myself trapped in that over the last couple of years doing what I've been doing, and actually, I just need to stop it because invariably, what I'm doing has been working to other people's strategies, other people's
Yeah.
recommendations, and I'm not blaming them. I know it's come from me because I've been asking for help. I need to understand what it is that's going to work. And actually, I don't need to do that. I just need to start listening to me and what works for me, what's important to me, my value set about helping people to get through their own stuff. I just need to do that. And you're right. And it's what you can control. I've sort of known it. It's coming around, but I'm still falling in the same old trap because that's what we've been taught to do. And I think that's where I personally would like to see more people becoming more self-driven
Yeah.
and driven. And I need to be very clear to the audience. When I talk about driven, I'm not talking about striving and driving, but more about where the energy is coming from. So it's coming from internally. It's something that's important to you. That's almost what would I call it? Not a purpose, maybe purpose driven rather than financially driven or results driven or whatever. And I hate to say it, but I think the corporate world still hasn't quite let its grip go of me because that's where I've been working and it's not right. It's just
Yeah.
not right. And you've got it so well. I love you for that, Richard. You've got this sussed. You've got this sussed. So 2026 then, strategies have got to come from some things that you can control. Yeah? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And I think you've got to care about everything and care about nothing. Yeah. I think you've got
Oh,
to
you might have
do,
to qualify that a bit.
well, you do, if you do what you care about, and if you do it in a way that expresses that care, then that's what I mean by you've got to care about everything. You've got to care about what you do. You've got to care about who you work with. You've got to care about what you achieve. When I say you care about nothing is because there reaches a point where then how the rest of the world takes that is entirely down to them. If you do what you care about, that's the most important thing. How the rest of the world responds to that, entirely up to them. I can't, as long as I believe that I've done my best and I present it in the right way and all the rest of it. If the rest of the world doesn't agree or the rest of the world doesn't like it, well, that's their prerogative, that's their choice. But we beat ourselves up trying to create something, and then we beat ourselves up trying to get other people to see the same thing. If we beat ourselves up quite rightly, creating something that's as good as we can do, but then go, do you know what? They're adults, it's up to them. They have their own brains, their own minds, their own
Yeah.
priority on the rest of it. If they turn around and go, "You're an idiot," okay, that's entirely for them to decide. Yeah, but
Mm.
it takes away a huge amount of stress. I was talking to a firm this morning where they were putting in place a new structure for their services and their pricing, and they're like, "Well, but what happens if the clients don't like it?" And I'm like, "Well, look, everything we've talked about this morning brings clarity to your business, is consistent with what you want to achieve, consistent with your goal. You believe in it, you totally buy into it." And they're going, "Yeah." I said, "So then it's up to them. They're grown-ups. It's entirely their decision whether they choose to go with that or not.
Mm.
Let them make that. As long as you believe, if you think, oh, I could have done more, okay, do more. But if you believe that you've presented something in the best possible way, it's up to the rest of the world what they think about it. Yeah, I can imagine I'm not a tall artist or anything like that, but if you are a great painter or a great author or a great playwright or whatever, you know, you can only present the best piece of work you think. If the audience don't like it, or if the critics don't like it, well, that's their call.
Yeah.
That's entirely up to them. I know it has practical implications. I'm not dismissing that, but we can't. That's the bit. It's almost like the epitome of control what you can control. You can control your own performance. You can control your own output. You can't control how other people see it. It's up to
No.
them.
Yes, that is interesting. And I think a lot of it will go back to the way the brain operates, as in it needs us to be included. But if we're doing things from the heart, it will happen. I think,
Mm.
so
Yeah.
very often we've had conversations around, the different consciousnesses that we have within the system. We assume our cognitive, our prefrontal cortex is it, but it's not. It's linked so heavily to the heart and the gut that if those two aren't aligned as well, you're on a hiding to nothing. It's why you get lots of burnout, of which I had, because I just worked from the head and I ignored everything for myself, what I wanted, how it was affecting me. And it's just an old learning that we've got. And the sooner we can start to tune in to what works for us and acknowledge that actually we're entitled to be on this planet as much as the next person, and that our gifts and our our strengths are things that we can utilize when we work with others. And actually, you get better results when you find the right people. So
Mm.
if
Yeah.
anybody's got that
Agreed.
formula, that would be fabulous because that's the one I'm missing, I think, at the
Yeah.
moment. I can see it. I can see it when I'm talking to people, but I don't dive in and say, oh, you need me. But it can be a little frustrating to watch them just get on with it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, you
Yeah.
don't have to
And
live with
that's
it.
no, and that's that. I don't think that ever changes. I don't see how that ever changes because there isn't a magic dust that you can just way across over the heads of people and they see life from your perspective. It's not how it works.
Oh, and it's not just my trade and profession. That works in an accountancy world where they see, the writing on the wall, but the client just can't see it.
Mm.
And I've seen that, and I've heard that, when I've talked to people where they know their client is sailing close to a wind or whatever. So yeah, it's I think it's the same for everything, and every trade. So, 2025 then. I love the fact that you think there's these three, what should we call them? Three us's, three personalities, whatever, that are affected, and make the sum up of our year. So if you've had a bad year this year, listeners, it's okay. There's some learnings to be done from that. It's about understanding yourself and how you showed up and what your impact was. And the beauty of that is it can change because you have the power of control. And for 2026, what I'm hearing, and Richard, the best advice ever is to focus on your strategy. And no matter what happens, if the strategy is coming from your heart, your good intent, and things that are going to work for you, then you're going to be fine. 2026 will be fine. Even though there's this maelstrom going on around in and around the world, only 3 more years, people. Just say,
Yeah, yeah. Just be positive. Be energetic as you can be. Um, Most importantly, just be true to yourself. Be true to yourself. 2026 will be okay.
yeah, what a positive message to end the year on, Richard. Thank you so much for that. And thank you, listeners. Love to hear your comments on some of that and what 2025 has been like for you and your predictions for 2026. Thank you.